For our first of 5 reworks, we have Anduin Rin. If you guys don't know who Anduin Rin is a healer. He was son of Varian, blah blah blah, a whole bunch of lore stuff. I don't know. You guys don't really care about any of that. This is a rework. So Anduin was a very popular hero in Heroes of Storm, and he was used a lot in competitive scenes, specifically for Light Bomb and for his trait Leap of Faith. Both were amazing in the competitive scene because Light Bomb allowed for a solid secondary follow-up to an engage that your team was already doing. So you could have a Garrosh who goes in and taunts people for 2 seconds, then you Light Bomb them, and after 1.5 seconds it stuns. So if you count for reaction time, there's basically no overlap between the initial taunt of Garrosh and the follow-up of Light Bomb. What was more common was his partnership with Johanna, which was either Blessed Shield to stun potentially 3 targets. You would Light Bomb the Johanna, she would scoop up all of the targets and stun every one of the enemies. Another popular one that we've been seeing a lot more of is Light Bomb attached to targets that would be jumping very far into the enemy team. For example, you Light Bomb a Mephisto, he jumps in and instantly stuns a group of enemies. You Light Bomb a Genji, he dashes in. You Light Bomb... You have ETC do stage dive, and right before he actually disappears, you Light Bomb him, he lands down and stuns a bunch of people. And so there's a lot of variants that have been used in the past with Light Bomb, and it's been something that has caused him to be staying in the competitive scene as kind of a boring but effective hero. There are some complaints about Anduin, but for the most part, he was a popular hero before the rework, and I'm rather surprised to see why he's getting reworked, or that he's getting reworked. So, with that being said, I first wanted to read the developers' comments on why he got reworked. And they said, Anduin has a wealth of effective talents, but most of them were stuck in the later talent tiers. We'd like to shake that up and let him have fun earlier in the game, which is kind of true. His early game was rather boring. There was one major complaint that I had about Anduin, which was that a lot of his talents on those tiers ended up just outclassing each other, to where he would basically only have like 1 or 2 builds in the competitive scene, and that was because just certain talents just were better than other talents, and balancing those would either make one talent just overshadow the other one. So it didn't feel like you were taking different utilities along the way. Or even different styles of healing. You were still healing basically in the same style. It's just that your numbers were a little bit different. With that being said, let's talk a little bit about what they've done to Anduin. So to start off, I'm going to talk about his basic abilities. His basic attack speed has been upped. He used to attack just a little bit under once per second. Now he attacks exactly once per second. We can see that the auto attack animation, he definitely seems like he's attacking a little bit faster. They've also made it to where his Q, Flash Heal, is now on a 5-second cooldown instead of a 4-second cooldown, which it used to be between a 4 or 6 depending on if he took Bold Strategy at level 1 or not. His W used to be a 9-second cooldown, and now it is a 10-second cooldown. And his Leap of Faith trait now has one of his level 1 talents baked in, Pursued by Grace. Basic attacks against enemy heroes heal the lowest health ally hero near Anduin. It also appears that they've increased the range of it, but they have not. It's just, it doesn't show the range of Pursued by Grace. So this is about the range of Pursued by Grace, and if I go a little bit outside of that, let's see how far it is. Oh, it's actually interesting. It's actually much larger than I remember. So they might have still increased the range. It's not pull range, but it's still pretty good. And so that's not bad. That's actually a pretty decent range for Pursued by Grace. But this is only basic attacks, so it has been nerfed in the sense that it doesn't trigger on like your W, which it used to trigger on any set of damage. So that's what they've changed in the base kit. Let's talk about the talents now. So at level 1, he now has Even-Handed Blessing, Lightwell, which both of these were level 16 talents, and then he has Power Word Shield, which was a level 7 talent. But let's go into it. Even-handed blessing. If flash heal is cast on a different target from the last, its healing is increased by 10% and it refunds 40% of the cooldown. This does not affect the mana cost, so this can allow you to kind of burn through your mana very quickly. And it's not going to effectively double the healing on any particular target because it only reduces the cooldown by less than half, which means that if you want to heal 2 targets, it's going to kind of still require you to alternate between the 2 and kind of go from there. So if we were to heal on this target, we get a reduced cooldown. We heal on this target, we get a reduced cooldown. And we heal on this target, and we get a reduced cooldown. So this is great if the enemy team is not focusing a single target, but instead spreading their damage out. And it's going to allow you to really keep up on teams that are spreading out a lot of damage. So if you're going against like a KT or something, it's a pretty decent talent to keep the healing going. Power Word Shield. When Divine Star is traveling out, allies in its path gain a shield that absorbs. So this is different than what it used to do. Power Word Shield used to only give you a shield. Now it's going to give everyone on the travel out a shield. If Divine Star hits an enemy hero, Anduin gains a shield for a specific amount. So by taking this talent, you can throw out your W and you can shield this target. Then it also gives you a shield on the way on when you hit an enemy hero. This is actually a pretty cool change to this talent because the downside about W is that it doesn't give heals immediately. So if you're trying to save someone, it's better to just throw your Q, which has a cast time. So that was one of the things that Anduin kind of struggled with. So I actually kind of like this. If you need overall healing for your team, you can go Q. If you need kind of a more bursty survivability for one target, this is pretty decent. And then we have Lightwell. Summon a Lightwell that periodically heals nearby allies. And so let me take the talent, show you guys what it looks like. It will heal nearby allies about every second for 110. It fades after it's healed 15 times or when recast. It has an 80-second cooldown, but it's reduced by 1 second for each time Anduin heals an ally hero. So if you throw out your W and you heal 5 people, you shave off 5 seconds. Lightwell itself should shave 15 seconds off of it if casted in the right area. I never liked this as a level 16 talent because I felt like fights moved around too much to have a small healing zone, and there's too many mages that are in a competitive environment that can abuse people standing still in a Lightwell, making this talent only really good for healing people that are trying to do camps or throwing a healing zone in the solo lane, which you won't really have a solo lane past level 16. So being a level 1 talent, it actually brings a very unique thing to this game. Let's say you're on Braxis and you're keeping your team up in the bottom lane, and you decide that you want to throw a Lightwell to your solo laner. Well, now your solo laner might win a matchup that they otherwise would have lost because they have a zone that can give them a potential of 1500 health, which for a bruiser, 1500 health, now these are scaled to level 20, for a bruiser, 1500 health would be about a third of their health. So you could heal a bruiser for a third of their health when they need it, because you can keep this in a different area. And the cool part about this is you can lower the cooldown. So let's say they don't need it initially. You can set it up here, and that's for your solo laner, and then watch its cooldown. Let's say that we're lowering the cooldown a little bit. We're just attacking people. Each auto attack shaving off 1 second. And we're just keeping everyone alive on Braxis. Then let's say that they do need it. They can go and grab it whenever they want to, and you might even have the cooldown down to 0, ready to give them another one. And so it does bring a unique feature to it. I don't recommend this for actual team fighting because I think just shields would be purely better, but I do think that it's a unique trait to allowing your team to win the solo lane on maps that it's important to win the solo lane like Dragonshire or Braxis Holdout, which is the cool part about this talent being at level 1. On to level 4, and ignore all of the pinks because these are old. Moral Compass. Divine Star fires basic attacks at heroes close to its apex. It doesn't say how many. It used to only be 2. Is it more than 2 now? Yes, it will hit as many people as possible. It also increases your attack range. So it's like they're fusing the W build with the auto attack build. What I want to see also, this gives 3 sets of healing, right? Nice. Okay, cool. So that's actually really strong in combination with your trait. and in combination with potentially the power word shield. Well, it doesn't really matter with the power word shield, just because we'll get back to that. But if there's no cooldown reduction, these talents have no synergy really. So that's actually pretty cool, because now we have that longer attack range, and keep in mind that we also heal on our auto attacks, and we attack faster than we used to. So overall, that's a significant increase in healing and sustained, consistent healing. A little bit more on the burst, a little bit more on the sustain. Then we have Surge of Light. Basic attacks reduce the cooldown of Chastise by 0.5 seconds. Basic attacks against a hero rooted by Chastise launch an additional basic attack and restore 25 mana. Because Chastise roots for 1.25 seconds, if you root, you can get 2 auto attacks, which means 4 auto attacks, and you get a chunk of your mana back. That's interesting. I don't know if that's bursty enough to make this talent worth it, but it does allow you to have really high root uptime. So let's say, for example, we take, it doesn't really matter what we take, but let's say that we take Even-Handed Blessings and we take Surge of Light. If we root someone, we get those double attacks, which also increases our healing, and we have a relatively low cooldown on this, and we're also going to get our mana back, and that's actually not terrible. I was pretty excited about this talent, but I'm actually kind of interested in this talent just because of how many roots you can throw off. And how you get your mana back very quickly off of that root, because your root takes 40 mana and you could probably get 50 mana off of it, because you can attack twice with it. So that's pretty good. I don't know, I actually like this talent a lot, but I really like this talent. So let's do a Piercing Light. Chastise pierces to hit an additional hero. Hitting 2 heroes with a single Chastise permanently increases spell power by 1, up to a maximum of 10. That's also going to be 10% more healing, as spell power is your damage and healing. So that means 10% more damage on this, and that also means 10% more damage on this, but it also means 10% more healing on both of these. Hitting 2 people with this is going to be a little bit weird, just because it's kind of slow, and it's such a short range. So I don't know if I like this talent, but it's interesting, and I'll think about it as we go further into this, into these talents. Level 7, Binding Heal. Wasn't this Binding Heal? Oh no, this is Even-Handed. So Binding Heal means casting Flash Heal on an ally heals you as well. Blessed Recovery. If Anduin loses more than 8% of max health at once, which there is a small window to this, so it doesn't need to be in one blow. Recover 15% over 3 seconds. Has a 10-second cooldown. Current health required is 292. It's kind of neat that it says that. And we also have Desperate Prayer. Activate to instantly heal an ally hero for 789, but kneel for 2 seconds, unable to act. This is a great single target healing option, and just so you know, cannot be used on yourself, has to be used on someone else. Generally how this will work is if you really need to save one target, you're going to throw out your W, your Q, and then you're going to immediately hit with a Desperate Prayer. It's a lot of potential burst. Like if we were to toggle cooldowns really quick, it's a lot of potential burst. Let's say that we're just trying to heal one person. We might go in with an auto attack, throw out a Q, throw out a W, and then Desperate Prayer, and when it returns, we're healing for, 1800 health in a very short amount of time. Level 10. Let me just double check that his level 10 talents weren't changed. They were not, so they're the same as before. Holy Root Salvation is a protect that will also heal for a good amount. It's percentage based, so you can see on the healing dummy it looked like a ridiculous amount of healing, but it's percentage based, 30% of health. It can't be interrupted by just about any interrupt, knockback, silence, stun. The only thing that doesn't really interrupt it is roots, of course. Root slows, everything like that. Light Bomb is the same as what I said before. You apply a bomb to someone after 1.5 seconds. It stuns everyone around it, gives a shield to the person that you applied it to. I've said that this could be a competitive talent, even if it didn't apply, or even if it didn't do any damage. Just the shield and the stun is valuable, but it also does damage. Level 13, Speed of the Pious. When it's traveling, you gain movement speed. Each ally hero healed reduces the cooldown. This is a really cool talent, and they've buffed it, and I thought that this made W build completely viable and meta when they did buff it. Seeing as there are even better W talents now on that tier, I think this talent has gotten even better, and I still think W build is going to be a standard for Storm League. Push Forward. Damaging an enemy hero increases movement speed by 2.5%, and the amount healed by Pursued by Grace by 5%. And that stacks 8 times. So you get a lot of movement speed and you get a lot of extra healing from your trait. You can damage them with anything to stack this up, but remember, auto attacks are the only way to actually heal a Pursued by Grace. It's challenging because they tied the auto attack build to W, so it's going to make it to where you can't take all the W talents, but you kind of need to at least take Moral Compass, which is going to give you the extra range, and it's also going to give you the initial burst of the stack, because you're going to be hitting potentially 4 or 5 people with your W, and then also your Apex will probably get you the last few stacks that you need for push forward. So with 8 times 4, that's a 40% increase in healing on your auto attacks, but then your next W, where you're going to get your next burst heal, is still going to take a while because you're not getting the cooldown reduction. Definitely interesting, and we'll come back to it. Enchant Boots, Lion Speed. Gain 5% movement speed. This bonus is quadrupled while the cooldown of this is available. So you'll have a 20% increased healing, or increased movement speed. And then allies pulled by Leap of Faith are healed. If you've ever tried to pull someone and they've died on the way, this is a great talent for that. It's also great because you can reposition quickly before your trait, but while your trait's off cooldown, you don't really have anything for that. This tends to be the competitive talent for that reason. You can get in a great position before a pull, and you can pull saving someone, which is why it's really good for competitive, and it kind of overplays these talents, even though these are higher in efficient healing. Level 16, we have Renew. Flash Heal heals over time. Flash Heal heals for an additional 285 over 5 seconds, which is about half the healing of Flash Heal. This duration of this heal is refreshed each time Anduin hits a hero with a basic attack. This has no cap to it, so you could potentially keep Renew on all 5 members of your team if the fight is going really long, but realistically, this will probably only last for maybe 1 or 2 of your allies. Holy Nova. And keep in mind, these are basic attacks from anything, so you can throw out your W if you have the Apex, and that's also going to refresh all of your Renews. Holy Nova. After Anduin catches Divine Star, it explodes, healing nearby ally heroes and damaging enemy heroes. If they haven't increased the range of this, I still think this talent is not worth being level 16 talent. And again, it's too small of a range to heal both your team and damage the enemies unless you are in the front line, which means that you're likely to die. Glyph of Faith. Leap of Faith gains a second charge at level 16. Cool. That's actually really competitive. This was kind of a must in the competitive scene because there was no upgrade to Light Bomb, and it was better than the other level 20 talents, and it was just a good talent in the competitive scene, especially when you have Enchant Boots, which is kind of a necessary tool. Level 20, we have a Light Bomb upgrade now. Okay, we have Light of Stormwind. Holy Word Salvation grants ally heroes invulnerability instead of Protect. This does not affect Anduin. Channeling Holy Word Salvation for its full duration reduces its cooldown by 60 seconds. This talent is surprisingly strong against teams that don't have CC, and I think it's one of the best talents in Storm League against teams that don't have a lot of CC, because this makes this effectively a 16-second cooldown. And because that's a 16-second cooldown that you're giving invulnerability to your team, you can use that in basically every trade and prevent the enemies from trading, because you're kind of giving your team Sanctification. On Sanctification being on a 16-second cooldown is stupid. So that's that. Inner Fire. The target of Light Bomb gains 40% movement speed and 50 armor for 3 seconds. That's going to increase the chance that that Light Bomb gets off and ends up where you want it to be. You don't necessarily need to combo with Light Bomb anymore where you use teleports or anything to get in. You can give Light Bomb to anyone, including yourself, to land a perfect Light Bomb, making Light Bomb a better option in Storm League. We have Censure. Chastise now stuns, and its root duration is increased. So it stuns for the initial part of your E, and then it also increases the root duration. Keep in mind that if the root duration is increased, then it means that you're going to have more opportunities to get those double basic attacks off. Varian's Legacy. Basic attacks burn the enemy for 191, and Anduin heals for 50% of the damage dealt. That's just Anduin healing himself, though, so I don't really like this talent at all. Alright guys, now we're going to get into kind of my favorite part about this, is where I come up with builds. So, the the big thing about builds is I want to mention that I'm not focusing too much on the actual balance of these builds yet, because all of these will be balanced with the time that people have to play them, and they will be adjusted over time. There will be some builds that I mentioned may be stronger right now that may get nerfed, or builds that are nerfed or are weak right now that might get a little bit stronger. To start off, I'm going to be talking about the build that I think would be most effective during Storm League, which is going to be, surprisingly, I would say just a W build. You take your W talents all the way through, probably unsurprisingly, actually. I was going to say, surprisingly, the auto attack build, but I'll set that as kind of a secondary. And you can go with really anything, but I would say for competitive, I don't think you're going to have too many people diving on you, especially when you're going to get a giant shield. So we're going to go Desperate Prayer. Into either of these are perfectly fine. I would say depending on how many stuns the enemies have, this talent's really good. But Light Bomb can definitely always be used. So this depends, but we're going to go with Light Bomb for now. And then we're going to grab Speed of the Pious, so we have a lower cooldown. We're going to be going with, not Holy Nova. We'll be going with Renew. And, I mean, Glyph of Faith is really good. I would say go either or. If they've got like a Garrosh or Stitches, grab Glyph of Faith. If they don't, grab Renew. And then we're gonna grab either Inner Fire. We're gonna upgrade whatever ult we took, and that is gonna be the base standard build that's gonna work out. You can heal your ally. You can throw out a W. If you need a bigger heal onto your ally, you can quickly do like a quick Varian's Legacy or Desperate Prayer. But this build is going to give huge shields to your team, low cooldown on your W, and you're going to be able to keep renews going out on everyone. You're going to be safe with your own shield, and if you need a burst heal, you have a burst heal available. You still have the same CC capabilities and utilities you had before, but now you just have consistent and burst healing where you need it, when you need it, and it's also a straightforward build that kind of explains what you need to be doing. Landing your W on as many allies as possible and having the apex be near as many enemies as possible. And that's it. That's all you have to do in this build. You can keep Renew going on a ton of people, so this is a ton of extra healing throughout fights. The second build I'm going to give is probably going to be a little bit more healing in smaller scenarios. So this is great healing in almost any scenario. But I'm going to give you a build that gives more healing in smaller scenarios, so this might be better on Braxis or maps where there's just going to be constant fighting, like Volskaya, which doesn't really exist anymore, but you get the point. Point and control maps or maps that's just going to be a lot of fighting. We're going to go with a heavy root build that has a lot of auto attacks. So doesn't matter what we get at this early tier, but we'll probably grab Even-Handed Blessing just for that constant thing, but we could also go with really anything at this tier. Feel free to even go Lightwell if you want to, but just because that constant fighting. And again, this will be great on Braxis, so this will probably be like the Braxis build. So you grab Lightwell, it's good for either standing still or giving it to your solo laner. Then we're going to grab Surge of Light. We want to just be locking down people as often as possible. After we grab Surge of Light, I would imagine because we're going to be auto-attacking a lot, we're going to take a lot of damage, but most likely we're going to be in a bad position, so we're going to take Recovery. Either ult is perfectly fine, but Light Bomb means more time auto-attacking and more time rooting. And then at this level, we're going to grab Push Forward because we want to get that increased healing for just keep auto-attacking targets. At this level, we will be closer to enemies, but not close enough for Holy Nova. And so most likely we're going to be grabbing Renew to keep that healing going. And then this is up to you, but I actually really like the idea of grabbing Censure at 20. So basically how this is going to work is you're going to place a heal where your team is. You're going to then use your auto attacks, Ws, and throw out a heal and keep that heal going. We're going to root a target, and we're going to get multiple attacks off on that target, keeping our root cooldown rather low. And then you can keep switching heals onto other targets, and you can keep locking down people, and look at the amount of healing that we're bringing to these targets is pretty incredible. You can actually combo the root with your Light Bomb so that you get more time that they're locked down, and then you can just lock them down even further and continuing them being locked down for a long period of time. And so this build would be high on the root potential, pretty decent on mana, pretty decent on overall healing, but its power spike is rather later. You have an initial power spike that's okay, but it's nowhere near like the earlier power spikes of W. This build is going to be pretty decent for Brax's early game and really strong for Brax's late game. But I don't recommend this build in competitive. I would say this build is kind of a feast or famine. If you're getting a lot of auto attacks or you get a lead, you're going to be absolutely dominant by constantly locking down the enemies and preventing them from running away. The last build that I would give, so the first build would work in competitive or in Storm League. The second build would work in Storm League in very specific scenarios. And the last build that I would give is going to be a competitive hybrid build. This is a build that just brings the utilities for competitive, and that's about it. Even-handed blessings is going to work if they've got a lot of poke, but otherwise you're going to want that instant shield heals. And then we get into this tier, and I think that there's a lot of potential for Surge of Light, but I don't know if that's going to be the competitive thing. Whoever you root should get killed anyways, because you're using your root as a follow-up to whatever your tank's doing in competitive. So Moral Compass is going to be more consistent healing and more consistent just all around. Level 7, if you get Dovon, you're going to need Blessed Recovery, but Desperate Prayer is also going to be good. I would say it depends on the enemy team, but we're going to take Blessed Recovery for now. Light Bomb 100% in competitive. There's just too many CCs for the other talent, and Light Bomb is just really good in competitive. We're going to grab Enchant Boots, and we're going to grab Glyph of Faith so that we have that extra movement speed, and we have the ability to save 2 allied members. And then at level 20, that upgrade to Light Bomb seems really good, but I think Censure is also a possibility, so it just depends on what you want to go with. But in this case, we're going to grab the upgrade to Light Bomb, and that would be more of the competitive build. It's still so similar to the W build, just with changes at potentially 7, 13, 16, and 20. And that's about it. Actually, 20 is the same in W build. So that's really what I would recommend to start off for you guys. Of course, balance is going to change these builds. I think that currently W build is going to be a big buff from where it used to be. And if you enjoyed playing Anduin before, I think he's going to be a lot stronger than he used to be for Storm League, especially in W build. But there are a lot of possibilities to go with Anduin, and there's a lot of directions you can take with these talents. And it's still hard to gauge on how good things like Piercing Light actually are. It could be a really good follow-up to a Light Bomb to be able to root 2 people that you hit with that Light Bomb. So take everything that I've said with a grain of salt. I find a lot of these talents at level 4 is an extremely competitive tier. And it's a huge power spike for Anduin, no matter which direction you decide to go. And then the same thing, I would say level 13 is a very powerful tier. So he definitely has power spikes a little bit earlier than most other heroes in the game, which is pretty interesting. With all of that being said, that is Anduin's rework. Let me know what you guys think about it down below. I actually really like this rework. I was skeptical about why they reworked him, but I think this is going to be a fun rework with a lot of changes that can really affect how he plays, and I think it's going to kind of shove him a lot further up in the Storm League meta, increases win rate a little bit, and it's going to make him a very strong competitor in the competitive scene. Thank you guys so much for watching, and feel free to check out my other videos. I will be having some more videos coming out of the other reworks as soon as I possibly can.